Imagine a country torn apart overnight, millions displaced, trains of refugees, some walking, many dying on the way, schools shut, factories empty, fields uncultivated. The year is 1947. A brand new flag flies, no easy answers, and then one man, Jawaharlal Nehru, steps in. Staring at that rubble and chaos, saying, "We will build. Not tomorrow. Now." What did build mean in that moment? And how did Nehru manage to turn the dream of modernization into something real while walking a tightrope of rival ideologies, poverty, hunger, foreign pressure, and the ghosts of colonialism? Keep watching, because this story of vision, struggle, betrayal, and hope is really the story of how nations are born, how dreams are made real, but also how limits appear, sometimes where you least expect them. When the British left in August 1947, India did not inherit a ready-made ship that could sail smoothly. Partition had carved the land and mines. Princely states were semi-independent. Infrastructure was weak. Industry was minimal. Most people were farmers, many barely producing enough for themselves. Literacy was low, health poor, and governance systems overloaded. Nehru, as the first prime minister, faced immediate tasks that threatened the very survival of the country: stop communal violence, manage refugee flows, unite the 565 princely states into one union, create a constitution that would allow democracy, secularism, and justice to take root, revive a crippled economy. And do all this while keeping India from being dragged into Cold War rivalries or dependence on foreign powers. These weren't simply administrative tasks. They went to the heart of what India was and what it would become. Nehru believed modernization was not optional. He saw the promise in heavy industry, in science, in modern education, in irrigation and dams. He believed that India could leap forward, not slowly drift. From 1951, he introduced the 5-year plans. The first plan focused mostly on agriculture, irrigation, primary health, and education, because unless people are fed and healthy, nothing else works. Then later plans, especially the second, shifted heavily toward industrialization: steel, mining, heavy machinery. The idea was that the state should help build the fundamental capacity. In 1956, the Industrial Policy Resolution was adopted. It reserved core industries, arms, railways, atomic energy for state control, allowed regulated private industry and others, and encouraged public sector enterprises in basic heavy industries. The goal was to reduce dependence on imports, build capacity, create jobs, and strengthen infrastructure. Nehru also believed that modernization meant more than just big factories. It required minds to be awakened, people to be literate, schools, colleges, and research institutes. He pushed for scientific temper and established research bodies. He wanted India to be a country of reason and inquiry, not superstition and division. Agriculture, too, was key. Many farmers had no secure land, and many landlords had huge estates. Nehru's government abolished the zamindari system, redistributed land in many states, and tried to give ownership to tillers. Irrigation projects began, and research into better seeds and farming methods was encouraged. Dams like Bhakra-Nangal and Hirakud were built, not merely as local water projects but as national symbols. Nehru famously called dams temples of modern India. The idea was to generate power, irrigate fields, link regions, and reduce dependency. Roads, railways, and power plants all got attention. Meanwhile, Nehru handled foreign policy with equal strategic care. He didn't want India to become a pawn in Cold War politics. So he pioneered the non-aligned movement. He said India would get help but would not become dependent or aligned in ways that compromised sovereignty. This allowed India to receive aid, technology, and partnerships while retaining its agency. It was a fine balance between ideals and practicality. But vision alone does not transform a country. Nehru's modernization faced real, difficult problems. Huge projects and big ideas ran into limited administrative capacity. There were delays, corruption, and underutilization of capacity in some state factories. Licensing, later called the License Raj, became a straitjacket. Private industry needed too many permissions, too many hurdles. Sometimes the rules made sense, other times they slowed everything to a crawl. Agriculture, despite early reforms, continued to lag. Most farmers were still poor, most farms small, productivity low. The Green Revolution only kicked in later, in the mid to late 1960s, and only in some regions like Punjab and Haryana. Many areas of India did not benefit equally. Regional disparities grew. Some states benefited more quickly, those with early infrastructure, fertile land, and better leadership. Others lagged behind. This meant uneven modernization, which had political and social costs. Financial constraints added to the burden. India needed money to build dams, steel plants, and research centers. Foreign aid and loans became necessary, but they came with strings attached. Some industries required very large upfront investments, which had to come from either domestic savings or foreign capital. Social and political pressures didn't make it easier. Caste, language, religion, and regional differences made uniform implementation difficult. Some landowners resisted land reform. Some states resisted central policies. Some communities felt left behind. Nehru had to balance long-term idealism with immediate stability, and that often meant compromises. Meanwhile, wars and external shocks, the 1962 war with China, skirmishes with Pakistan, droughts put even more strain on resources. Stability was fragile, and progress sometimes uneven. Yet, despite these enormous obstacles, Nehru's leadership delivered results that were both tangible and transformative. India's industrial base, once almost non-existent, began to take shape. Under Nehru, steel plants, power plants, and heavy engineering factories came up. Public sector undertakings like the Steel Authority of India, Bharat Heavy Electricals, and Hindustan Aeronautics became the backbone of India's economic power. These enterprises not only built machines, they built confidence. For a country that had been colonized for centuries, to manufacture its own planes, locomotives, and steel felt revolutionary. In agriculture, the early investments in irrigation and land reform slowly began to bear fruit. Famines became rarer. The foundation for the Green Revolution was laid through the institutions and research networks that Nehru built. Education and scientific institutions were another of his lasting gifts. Nehru founded IITs, research institutes, and universities, believing that an independent nation must produce thinkers, scientists, and engineers. These institutions trained generations that would later fuel India's technological, academic, and space achievements. Steel, power, and infrastructure became the physical backbone, while education and science became the mental one. The temples of modern India were not just concrete structures but symbols of ambition. Railways expanded, power networks spread, and new roads connected distant towns. For the first time, millions of Indians began to feel part of a single national economy. Politically, Nehru's greatest success was keeping India democratic. At a time when many new nations fell into dictatorships or coups, Nehru protected free speech, elections, and constitutional rights. He believed deeply that democracy was not chaos, it was the means to build unity in diversity. Even with criticism, he never silenced opposition. His idea of India was inclusive and forward-looking. On the world stage, Nehru's policy of non-alignment gave India moral weight. India was no longer a colony but a voice for newly independent nations. But every story of progress has a twist, and this one is no different. For all his achievements, Nehru's model had trade-offs. The License Raj, designed to protect the infant economy, became a breeding ground for corruption and inefficiency. Starting a business required endless paperwork, multiple approvals, and often political connections. Innovation was slowed. Agriculture improved unevenly. While some regions prospered, others stagnated. The small farmer often remained trapped in poverty. The country also had to depend on foreign loans and food imports during bad years, which sometimes contradicted the dream of total self-sufficiency. Regional inequalities deepened, fueling political unrest in later years. Critics argue that Nehru's overemphasis on heavy industry ignored consumer goods and small-scale entrepreneurship. The centralized model borrowed heavily from socialist systems, which sometimes lacked flexibility. Bureaucracy became powerful, often slow, and risk-averse. Yet, even these shortcomings reveal something deeper. Nehru was trying to do the impossible: turn a poor, divided colony into a self-reliant, democratic, industrial nation within a generation. His ambitions were immense, and so were his challenges. When Nehru died in 1964, India had changed. It was no longer the hungry, hopeless land of 1947. It had steel mills, power projects, schools, universities, and a sense of identity. But many of his projects needed further reforms. Later leaders had to fix inefficiencies, open up markets, and adapt. Still, every reformer after him built on what Nehru began. Without those early foundations, India's later rise in science, space, and technology would have been impossible. His era gave India its industrial skeleton, its democratic soul, and its intellectual spirit. So what's the takeaway? First, vision matters, even when it's imperfect. Nehru knew that waiting for ideal conditions meant waiting forever. He acted with the resources he had and built something lasting. Second, strong institutions matter. Big problems, hunger, illiteracy, backwardness, cannot be solved by markets alone. They need collective will and structure. Third, trade-offs are real. Any massive transformation involves tensions: speed versus equality, central planning versus flexibility, growth versus justice. The key is to adapt without losing direction. Fourth, persistence matters. Not everything Nehru started succeeded immediately, but he laid frameworks that guided future generations. And finally, modernization isn't just about machines. It's about minds, values, and confidence. It's about believing that a once colonized nation could stand tall, think freely, and build for itself. What do you think? Was Nehru's approach the right one? Were the drawbacks justified by the circumstances, or could he have done things differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story inspired you or gave you a new perspective on India's journey, hit the like button, share it with someone who loves real stories of history, and don't forget to subscribe for more such powerful tales of vision, struggle, and nation building.